Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is FancyOS17 and I'll be your YouTuber today. Today we're going to be discussing the Kampfpanzer 70, aka the MBT 70. So to start off, to understand what this tank is, we have to understand what the project was. And this was a joint project between the American U.S. Army, tank development, whatever you want to call it, and West Germany. So this was still during the Cold War, which took place, the development started around 1960s. And to really understand this tank, like I said, you have to understand why the project was made. This was made to anticipate the new modern tanks of Russia and what they were developing, so your T-62s and so forth, those later Cold War tanks that we see and we learn and we know. The tank project itself was deemed a failure, but not really officially, if that makes any sense. The project ended up getting canceled just because there's a difference. America does everything their way, we do it our way, and they do it their way. Whatever you want to say, I'm just rambling at this point. But this project in itself spawned, the tanks we know today. This created the Leopard 2 project for Germany, and this made the Abrams project for us. The reason that it did that is because it used a hydropneumatic suspension, so that leaded the way for tanks to be able to kneel, if that makes any sense, to kneel and stand, basically changing the way your tank is elevated. So if you came up on a berm or something and you wanted to utilize the berm, you'd cause your tank to kneel. Anyway, I'm getting really off track here, and this video is pretty long. So what we do is we kind of discuss together, as me as the YouTuber and you guys as the listener. This is a learning experience for me as it comes down to these kinds of videos, because I have to do the research and understand the tank, and normally I try to get replays of people's tanks, and I hate this tank a lot. I really do. I wish I never really got it. It was really good when it first came out, and I just can't stand it anymore. I can't stand to play this tank, and it shows in my gameplay, and nobody else liked the tank, or nobody had the tank, because it is what it is. Anyway, we're getting super off track, and I'm so sorry. So 14 of these tanks were built, so you have 14 hulls. Some were what's called mild steel, which weren't complete prototypes. They weren't completely finished, so you either had a hull or a turret or whatever you want to call it. They were considered, oh, fuck you, Pantoof. Anyway, Germany withdrew from the project due to simply being over budget and differences between America's requirements and Germany's requirements. America, when they test all their tanks, they're normally not on the defensive, so to speak, in my mind, when it comes to them developing tanks, because look at the Abrams. That thing's suited to just destroy the desert. We have a crazy difference in terrain and biomes in America, whereas Germany has a lot of woodlands. I've never been to Germany, but from my understanding, there's a lot of woodlands, a lot of terrain, a lot of everything. So they kind of had this requirement difference, and we were severely over budget. The project was still continued till 1971, when America finally gave up on it and started developing the Abrams project. So you would have had your XM1, which Chrysler built, yada yada. You keep going, oh, it's T10. Nice guys. And this tank during testing was kind of crazy. It was insane. It was 3 times better than the Americans' M60, and it was better than Germany's M48, which we gave them and allowed them to use. So this tank was projected to replace the M60 and the M48 for Germany. But there were so many major problems, and I'm just really going to cover the gun itself. There was issues with the driver disorientation because the cupola was situated in the middle, and when the turret rotated, it really confused the driver. A whole different things that caused this tank to not really live up to the expectation. I mean, when it was being showcased in Germany, the hydraulic system failed and smoke started tunneling out of the barrel, which, although people still wanted to order it, though, I don't know why. Normally when you see a major mechanical failure like that, you're like, well, what if there's another one? Anyway, this tank used two different guns. It used a Rheinmetall 120 millimeter German smoothbore, and then it also used what's known as the XM 150 gun launcher, an emphasis on launcher. This tank was meant to fire shillelagh anti-tank missiles for long-distance combat, and it was also capable of firing conventional ammunition. But the problem here is it had the same issue as the XM81 shillelagh Sheridan. They used a caseless design, which means the round itself doesn't have a casing, which means it was extremely vulnerable to wet ammo storage and just water damage in general, and they would leave residue when fired, and or it was just horrible. The design was just made very poorly. It was very rushed. Like I said, they were over budget. The shillelagh missile had issues firing by conventional loaders, aka humans, but auto-loading systems fired the shillelagh missile perfectly fine, as well as conventional ammo. But the issue with a caseless design is caseless ammo has a tendency to cook off or fire prematurely, which is obviously really bad for a tank, because if there's a shell that goes off in the barrel before you fire it, and you're aiming at, heaven forbid, another tank that isn't an enemy, and it fires off, hits that tank, well, they're fucked. Or it goes off in the turret and kills the crew. There's a majority of issues that comes along with that, and it was just really bad. Like I said, the reason they would cook off is because heat builds up in the barrel as you continuously fire the tank. Same thing with a machine gun. Same thing with anything that has continuous friction and pressure going through it. You always will have that kind of heat buildup, which is why you see some American machine guns, they need to replace their barrels after continuous fire because they overheat. It's like a majority of things that happen over time. The tank required its own armored recovery vehicles because it was overweight. So they projected it to weigh 54 metric short tons or something like that. A very low weight for a modern tank, and it ended up clocking out at 61 metric tons. That's a lot. That's very overweight for a tank, and they just needed to keep upgrading it because they needed to keep fixing the problems. And I could keep going and going and going and going and going on this tank, but that's besides the point. Just understand that this project was a bridge gap between your late World War II tanks to your Cold War, and now even your modern tanks. A lot of designs were drawn from this tank. So you have your Leopard 2 A7s and your Leopard 2s in general, and you have all your variants of your M1 Abrams. That stemmed from this project, and that's kind of crazy to think about. But as for gameplay standards, I really don't enjoy this tank. I hate it. The tank, you normally try to play it whole down, but you have those cupolas, and anyone with Pramo is going to go through that turret because it flattens out on the sides. I might cover armor normalization or shell normalization or volumetric, whatever you want to, anything you guys are interested in, I can talk about, but this isn't the video to do that. I don't know, I had a lot of issues recording this and a lot of issues writing down stuff, because the more modern you get into tanks, the harder it is to write and the more facts you have to write. I mean, I have 2 pages of notes here that I had to read off of, and I could have filled up 3 more. And so I'm really crunching down on these, and I apologize if the content's coming out rushed. I was pretty upset and stressed lately with wargaming and different YouTubers. I kind of like to beat on Droodles a lot because his content is really rushed, and Pantoof, great guy, but I just can't get behind some of his content. Obviously, I'm an average player, so I don't have that kind of point of view of, oh, well, this tank's for skilled people or this tank's for bad people. Uh, the K91 is a very good deal. The 047's okay, really power crept. I wouldn't get it. I would not buy any of those containers. Your main deals here are going to be used for the K91 by itself. The SU-130P is pretty much just a slightly worse Scorpion G in my opinion, and do not buy these, please. And that's going to come close to the end of our video. Today I kind of wanted to talk about the Tank Eating Tiger Den. Great guy, NA server player, very, very fun to talk to. If you really like some of my content, I'm going to ask that you subscribe and kind of spread the word. I hate doing those cheap, oh, subscribe stuff, because that's not me, but I really like to give a shout out to these guys for helping me make my channel what it is and make this community better for me and my content. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I do, how I do it, and where I do it. Just the community is really great. It's a small group. It's like me and 4 other guys that are very active in the server. Really enjoyable community. If you're looking to get into getting some help from NA players, even if you're from a different server, EU or U, wherever you'd like to go, we're here for you, and I will leave a link for them in the description below. I do have my own server, but I spend more time in their server because mine's inactive, obviously. The viewers for my videos, I have over 100 subscribers, and I really only hit 30 or 40 views, even if that. Most of my views obviously get off done on my historical videos, and I really appreciate you guys for coming out and spending your time watching my videos. This little portion here is just for me to rant off and talk to you guys and give my opinions and my thanks to all of you guys. You know, like I said, if you enjoy my content, I'd like for you to subscribe, maybe share it around, get some views up, and obviously give me an impetus to keep creating more content, because if, you know, being a YouTuber is kind of hard. You know, you have all these standards to meet, but that's besides the point. Stay cool, stay frosty, and I'm really happy that all of you guys take the time to watch my video. Have fun and be safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.